This is for you. This is for you. Here we go, Brownies. Here we go. Yeah. Here we go, Brownies. Here we go. Yeah, this for my dogs from the east to the west side. You rockin' brown and orange with me, baby. Let's ride. Represent the land, let them know. Tell them, here we go, Brownies. Here we go. Yeah, here we go.
All right, let's do it live, everybody, on a beautiful Wednesday evening. This is the Here We Go Brownies podcast. I'm Allie Heisong, coming at you live from Sneads Ferry, North Carolina. Joined with me, as always, out in beautiful Boise, Idaho, we've got Dustin. Guys, this is not really a fun show at the start. You know, we're going to talk about the loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers. We're certainly going to acknowledge the devastating injury and loss of, Nick Chubb to this team. So we're going to get into that, but some positive news. We are going to welcome Browns Hall of Fame legend Joe Delamielleure, to the program here in just a few moments. So stay tuned for that. We're going to get into it. I know everybody's upset. I know we're frustrated. There's a lot to talk about. So bear with us. If you've got any comments, questions, concerns, drop it here. We'll do our best to get to it live on the program. Dustin, let's turn it over to you. How you doing?
Yeah, I was going to say, if you guys have any comments for Joe that you would like to have us ask him as well for tonight on the program, drop those comments in there. Allie and I will be monitoring those as well to see if you have any comments for Joe. Yeah, Allie, I got to tell you, I felt like I got a gut punch. Like I felt like somebody just came up and punched me about as hard as they could in the gut. And I can't imagine what it was like for the players in that game after that happened. But I can tell you what it felt like from a fan's perspective, and the fact that you could even keep playing a game when you kind of know Nick Chubb's the heart and soul of the football team and everything, hums with him in the game. So yeah, I got a gut punch. The Browns were in this game till the end, right? They were in it till the end. We can get into the egregious calls that happened on both sides of the ball in this game. It was a very poor officiated game. I'll say that. I don't care if the refs come after me. It was a very poorly officiated game. It just was ugly from the start, from that pick six on the first play of the game to I was like, okay, well, that's not a good start. That seems about like Cleveland-like. Here we go. Let's kind of resettle. And I was like, and just after that, it just kind of, and here's the thing, Nick Chubb was off to a fantastic start up till that injury. And of course, we saw all the fans, non-football fans, people reaching out to Nick Chubb on Twitter because they know how much of a real great person he is outside of football, right? Like what he stands for, his ethics, who he is as a person. So, Allie, and of course, I know you feel the same way. We just wish him and his family the best to a full and speedy recovery. And we can't wait to see him back in Cleveland after his rehab and stuff like that. But, we just want him to know that we're with him. We appreciate him. We love him. And I know that, any injury is devastating, but for it to have something like that happen, especially the same knee you had reconstructed in college, Georgia, is just, it's devastating. But we did get
absolutely devastating.
Yeah. But we did get a little good news today. What seemed like a no-brainer move. The Cleveland Browns signed Kareem Hunt today. Had him in the building yesterday and signed him. I like this move. Very familiar with the offense. I feel like he can play Sunday and be ready to go. Next man up kind of mentality. That's what the Browns have to do. But I like this move, and I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I agree. I wasn't sure what the Browns were going to do, and I think that we were all certain that they couldn't roll out with just Jerome Ford and then Pierre Strong behind him. That certainly wasn't going to work, especially for what they like to do offensively. And I do want to talk about what this offense is going to look like going forward without the heart and soul of this offense being Nick Chubb. But I agree with you, Dustin. I like the move with the caveat of it being that Kareem Hunt is running back too. I think that the Browns really like what they have in Jerome Ford. I know as a fan, I like what we have in Jerome Ford. I think he played very well against Pittsburgh in what was just an ugly game all around. And because Kareem, he's not the player that he was in 2017 or even 2020. There is a little bit of a step back, but he's a wildly different player than Nick Chubb, and I think that adds an extra wrinkle that the Browns really were missing. You have more of an elusive, dynamic back that can catch the ball out of the backfield and can be a little bit more creative in that regard, especially on third downs and in the red zone. So I do like it, but I also think that we're going to see a lot from Jerome Ford, and I feel pretty good about that.
Well, yeah, I mean, think about that, Allie. You're backing up Nick Chubb. I don't think any running back wants to be thrust into that, and for Stump Mitchell to go over there and kind of rally, Ford and say, okay, you got to go out there and be the man now, right? I think, and for him to respond the way he did and have that big burst of a play and say, yeah, I got to be the man. I got to step in and be that person. I think that was big on his part, right? Again, he, hasn't been in that role, and he's thrust into it, and not when he was expecting to be thrust into it. But I mean, who really is it? When an injury happens, right? You don't know when that's happened, but you got to be ready to go, right? That's what you're taught, right? Kareem Hunt, you do bring up a great point. Now he does bring a different element to the offense, so that's a good thing. But I got to tell you, the one thing that I did not like, Allie, on Monday Night Football was Deshaun Watson was kind of stinking up the place a little bit, and I didn't like that. And I'm not seeing the progression from week 1 to week 2 that I really hope that I do see in week 3. And I know we'll get into that and unpack that, but I didn't like what I saw from Deshaun Watson with the personal face mask penalties, not 1, but 2 in the game. The bumping of the referee that, there's kind of some conflicting stories out there. Was it on purpose? Was it inadvertently? But still, that's just not in control of what you're supposed to be doing, right, at the end of the day. So that was concerning to me, and we got to get that fixed sooner than later. So Deshaun has to be significantly getting better week 3, week 4, week 5, because guess what? Competition is not going to get easier. You got San Francisco and Baltimore coming to town. Those are really good defenses. And honestly, I mean, I lean that on Deshaun, but man, he did not have a lot of time in the pocket either, man. He was being pressured a lot in this football game, and I felt at times like they were in the backfield before he could even think. And so I know as a quarterback, then you're really thinking on the fly and having to make really sometimes poor choices you don't want to make because it's the last thing you have to do. So.
Yeah. So let's get into that. But before we do that, we want to give a shout out to our friends over at K&D. Whether it's sophisticated suburban living, luxury downtown digs, or senior housing, K&D, the largest property management company in Northeast Ohio, has a perfect home for everyone. K&D is your one-stop shop for housing in the region with apartments and amenities for everyone, including residential, commercial, retail, and also corporate housing. Find your dream home at K&D. Visit knd.com to get started. That's the letter K, the word and, the letter D.com. You're right. I did not like what I saw offensively from your Cleveland Browns from several aspects. Outside of Nick Chubb when he was available, Deshaun Watson goes 22 of 40 for 235, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Jerome Ford, 16 carries, 106. Mari Cooper with a great game coming off of, I know he was questionable coming into that game, 7 receptions for 90. He was kind of a lifesaver in this game in a lot of ways. So I want to talk about Deshaun Watson because frankly, this can't happen. I mean, especially now when you don't have Nick Chubb, who I mentioned at the top was really the heart and soul of this offense and what you like to do offensively. Now without him, you are limited in many other ways. And I do want to have a conversation at some point, whether that's on this show or maybe on Sunday, where we talk about what we anticipate from this offense going forward, because it is going to change, right? We know, especially with Kareem Hunt, offensively, he's not going to be a wide zone type of guy. He's going to be more of a power pin pull inside zone type of player. And I think that the Browns are going to have to shift. They're really going to have to do, some soul searching here and figure this out, because offensively, this was a really bad performance. Now, I will say this, and it didn't seem like it, but this Pittsburgh offense is not good. It's not good. But that is a very hostile environment. Hang on one second. And they're not a good football team. It's just the Browns cannot win when you get in your own way. And we have this conversation week in, week out, every single year that we've been doing this podcast, Dustin. And the one positive spin on it is last year, week 2, the Browns did what they did. I think that was the Jets in week 2. And it was just an absolute devastating loss, and unlike one that we've ever seen. And now on Monday Night Football, week 2 of the 2023 season, it's another situation of like, this is just unheard of, unfathomable way to lose this football game. But last year in week 3, they come back, they get a win. And I think that the Browns have to have really a short memory here. And I'm not saying that, is any, to not be sensitive to the Nick Chubb injury, but offensively, you've got to move forward. We've got to come out on Sunday and look a lot better. Deshaun Watson has to be better. We're 8 games into this. The inaccuracy is concerning. The poor decision-making is concerning. But what I hate the most, Dustin, is what I'm seeing, like you mentioned, those personal fouls. You had more personal foul penalties in this game than you did touchdowns. And that can't happen. It's concerning, and it's not what you want out of your franchise quarterback. You are captain on this team, let alone somebody that this franchise has paid $230 million. You cannot have it. It's unacceptable. Do I think that he'll bounce back and we'll figure it out to a certain degree? Yes, of course. I mean, he's incredibly talented. No shying away from that. But it can't be like this. It's not going to work like that.
Well, we don't have a choice, right? I mean, you bring up a valid point. I mean, if you took the stat lines just from the football game alone, first downs, everything, and just put it on the screen and you said which team won, you would have said the Cleveland Browns, right? I mean, they had, 8 or 9 total first downs in this football game. The Browns had 20 first downs in this game. And if you just looked at the stat lines, time of possession, Browns had it by like 13, 15 minutes, a lot, right? You would have been, that team won. Clearly, they had, and that was not the case at all. Like, how did the hell the Browns lose this game, right? Is what you got to ask yourself. Yeah. Because the defense played lights out. I want to get into a little bit of, I can't imagine, and I'm not going to make excuses for players, but I can't imagine seeing one of your guys go down like that and kind of have to regroup as a football team, right, and kind of rethink.
Yeah, that's tough.
That's tough, right? But I will tell you this. I don't know. Did you watch any of the post-game press conferences at all from the game out? Did you catch any of them? Because I wanted to go watch them. It
took me some time to gather the courage to do it.
Yeah, well, I will tell you this. I saw angry, mad Myles Garrett. And I mean, not like the jovial, he just looked really pissed. And like he looked at Mary Kay like, I really don't want to answer questions for you, but I will do it so I don't get fined. And he just looked pissed. And he was like making no excuses. He said, we played like SH, you know what? And this effing sucked. I mean, there was a lot of superlatives that were thrown in that press conference that you don't normally see from our players. And I was like, you know what? Maybe they need to dig inside now and have a little pissed offness and say, look, Nick Chubb's not going to bail us out anymore. Nick Chubb's not going to be there to save the day when we need him on 3rd and 2. We all have to rally as a group here and get our act together and play as a team for him. And I like that some of the players like Greg Newsom came out and said, hey, we got to rally around, and every play and every practice and every game is for Nick Chubb going forward. And I was like, okay, I like that, because now you don't have that person to save you, right? You don't have that savior. He can't do it for you. And you know what? Yeah. You should go play for Nick Chubb, because he's played his ass off for you for the last 4 or 5 plus years. And
he's everything you want. He's everything you want as a Cleveland Brown, personality wise, character, the player that he is. So it just sucks so bad. Real quick, guys, we're going to have a word from our friends over at Circle K, and then we've got a really fun interview coming up next.
Circle K is a touchdown for all your tailgating needs. Pick up grab-and-go sandwiches, snacks, drinks, and so much more for your pregame activities. Don't forget to grab a Polar Pop cup and fill it to the brim with Nugget Ice and your favorite flavor, including Circle K exclusive Mountain Dew Purple Thunder. Or mix it up to create your own. Fuel your day at Circle K with high-quality fuel. While you're there, sign up for Easy Pay and start saving 30 cents per gallon on fuel. Here we go, Brownies. Only at Circle K.
Let's go ahead and bring in Hall of Famer Joe Delamielleure. Joe, how are you? Thanks for taking the time.
I'm glad I can do that, but I got my grandson. I'm not technical. He got me hooked up with you guys. So
hey, we hear you. We hear you great. We hear you great. We can hear you.
We can hear you. Great. We can see you. So we are good to go.
Now, if I could change the face, you'd be perfect. You got to get a little bit more. But go ahead.
No, we're sitting well here. And Joe, obviously, we're coming off of just a devastating loss. And you lose Nick Chubb. So as fans right now, I think that we're all feeling, just a little down. What do you make of this team as it's currently constructed? We went into this season with so much hope. New quarterback, you've got a really good offense, a great defense, and now you play like that on Monday Night Football, and you just kind of feel a little bit down. But what are your thoughts on this team so far this season?
Well, at this point, they're scrambling right now. But
Yeah.
and I'm not a player. I'm a former player. Now I'm a fan, and I'm a
Yeah.
big fan of the Cleveland Browns and the Buffalo Bills, and believe it or not, the Detroit Lions, because I was born in Detroit. So you talk about some really bad teams. The Lions and the Bills, or the Lions and the Browns for last couple of years. It's been tough. But to me, the whole thing, like with Chubb, that was a big. I love that guy. He was one of my favorite players in the league, and really one of the favorite players I've ever seen. I played with great players, but how he played was impressive to everybody, current, former, and future players. And you lose that, you've lost more than just a guy. You lost part of your franchise there, and they're going to have to scramble to pick it up. And hopefully they can, but. I just hope that they just play the game loose instead of being don't come out there all tight like we got to win. Just go out there, play, do the best part you can. And I've been on bad teams, and I'm telling you, I made the Pro Bowl off a 2-12 team. I just put it in my head like I'm going to do my job the best I can, and try to affect the two guys around me, the center and the tackle, and hopefully we can make a running back and quarterback safe. But you just take care of yourself. That if I was a coach, I'd say, hey, everybody take care of their own job. Don't worry about anybody else. Be the best you can be, and play as hard as you can. And I use that word. People say you got to work hard. I said, no, football you play hard. So you got to get after it and just play, and that's what I do. That's what they need to do. They need to shake off these 2 games. It's a long season. Start over from square one. You don't have Chubb, and the other guys are going to have to fill in. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, and I was going to add to that, Joe. I don't know if you saw the news today. The Browns did bring in Kareem Hunt. They brought him back on a 1-year deal. So you have someone like Kareem Hunt that's familiar with the offense. And to Ali was bringing up a little earlier in the show, can bring a little bit more different dynamic to the backfield than Chubb. What do you think about bringing someone like Kareem Hunt back in to complement someone like Ford?
I think it's a good move because I know that kid can still play, and maybe he'll come in with a different attitude. Like he's going to come in, hey, I'm going to show him it was a mistake that I got released or didn't make the team. And he's going to know that the guys are depending on him. So I think that's a good move. He's familiar with the team. The guys are familiar with him. And that's a really good move. I'd do that if I was a GM.
I have a question. And going into this season, the Browns' offensive line has been regarded as one of the best in the league. Now, past 2 weeks, we've seen Deshaun getting a ton of pressure. Some of that may be self-inflicted, but also just maybe not the best protection. Now, you do lose your right tackle in Jack Conklin, who's great in my opinion.
You lost. Yeah, it's when you have 5 guys playing as one and Conklin gets hurt.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to put that unit together, and then you got somebody replacing one of the guys who's really a great player.
Right.
It's going to take a game or two to get used to him. The right tackle was sub for him. Let's face it, he's a young guy who hasn't played much, right? So he's got to get into the groove. And to me, if I were a coach, and I did coach, I'd tell Deshaun and the quarterback coach, whoever, you got to be decisive. These guys can only hold the block for that long, and your receivers you got to know where you're going with the ball almost before you get it. And that's what I think part of the problem is. He to me is this guy kind of looking around back there instead of knowing where he's going with the ball right away. But that's just me. It's hard to be an offensive lineman with a quarterback. Brian Sipe was the best quarterback I ever was with. Joe Ferguson was also great. But when they called the pass play, you knew that ball was going, it's going to be off here, and it's going to the right, going to the left, protect his front side, make sure nobody hits him in the back. I think the quarterback has a big factor to do how the offensive line is playing right now. That's my opinion. I don't know Deshaun Foster from anyone. Watson. I really don't know him. My kids said, Watson. I said Deshaun Foster. My kids get on me. They know sports. Watson, you idiot. But, so you got to have a little fun, right? But
Yeah.
Of course.
that it's a team game. That's the bottom line. And right now, your big guy is always the full quarterback, and he's not playing well right now. To be very honest
Yeah.
with you. Do you agree?
Yeah,
I agree entirely.
Yeah. I mean, you can soft pedal all you want. He's got to get better.
Yeah, and I think just from the offense entirely, it needs to get better. I think that Amari Cooper played a really good game, even though he was questionable going into this. Prior to Nick Chubb's injury, the run game looked really good. Tight end player has to be better. It has to be better. But it all starts and ends with the quarterback. When he's not playing well, you
Because
can't expect the
I do
offense to get into a
stuff with the
rhythm.
offense. It's called tip of the spear with the coaches, and I do stuff with them. I talk to Jim McNally. We've done stuff and tried to give advice to the Cleveland Brown offensive line, and they're a good offensive line. They're really good. Scott Peters is the assistant coach, and we've done stuff with Scott. And Scott is really he's a fantastic coach. And they got a good line, but they just they got to get in sync. They lost the running back position was lost, but when they lost the right tackle, that's a big blow to the offensive line. That's like losing the quarterback for the receivers and that. That guy was a great player, and we lost him, so that'll set you back a little.
Yeah.
Well, and let me ask you this question, Joe, because you played. We've had Greg Pruitt on the show, which you're probably you know Greg pretty well.
Yep, I know.
From his playing days in Cleveland, you helped open the lanes there for him. What kind of difficulty is that for an offensive lineman like yourself when you have someone like Nick Chubb that's been in now? All of a sudden, you're thrust into having a Ford or a different player in there, and his timing and his scheme and the way he runs the ball. What is that? How much difficulty does that bring to the game?
I don't think that's going to bring a lot of difficulty to the line. You're blocking where the hole is. They just lost a great back. I mean, Greg Pruitt was a great back. You're going to notice it when he's not there. Those guys are, they're few and far between, the backs like that. So what you got to do is, like, as a team, do your job the best you can, and everybody pull together. And that's the only way you're going to pull yourself out of this, because they've had some bad luck. But luckily, it's the first two games. There's a long way to go.
Right.
And I think they got a replacement, couldn't help them. The right tackle's got to get better. That's all there is to it. And I'm sure they're going to coach him up. But
now, what do you see from Jed on the left side? He's drafted 10th overall a couple of years ago. I think he's in his fourth season now, and there is some development concerns. He tends to get beat a lot. I know that there's concerns about effort, things like that. What do you see from his play?
I really didn't watch him that much, because I watch different guys. I watch the left tackle. I think he's unbelievable, and the right tackle is unbelievable, and the center is pretty darn good. They got a good team. They got a good nucleus, and they can, I think they can put the pieces together. And when you have a weak link in the line, then you protect them, by different types of protection, like slide protection. If the tackle is not going to, like the right tackle, he's got to have slide protection where the guard helps him and the center steps over and the left guard's all by himself, basically. And then you keep it back in the block to help them. You're going to have to I can come up with things to draw plays that would work, but everything looks good on paper. Then you got to do it on if everything was perfect on paper, we'd score every time. The coach, hey, touchdown. No, coach, I'm playing against Joe Green. It's not easy. So you got to fix it. But anyhow, I talk too much. You guys ask me questions.
No, you're good. No, Joe,
it's all good.
Joe, I have a question for you. Obviously, you played for the Bills, you played for the Browns. Question I have for you specifically: is there in the time, like you said, Brian Sipe was one of the greatest quarterbacks you ever played for, and how exciting that was with the cardiac, those games that were so close and exciting. What was your best or favorite moment that you can remember, that you can go back and go, on this date and this time was my favorite moment in a game or a play that you in football with the Cleveland Browns?
Oh, with the Cleveland Browns? So when I can tell you my favorite play of all of football was I was a rookie and we played New England, and they announced the starting lineup, and they said Joe Delamielleure starting at right guard. I was a rookie. My thoughts were, what were you thinking? I said, I can't believe that this is even happening to me, because my father went to third grade, my mother went to eighth, and I'm one of 10 kids, and we grew up in a bar, and nobody went to college but me. I'm thinking, holy crap, I'm playing in the NFL. But that's my biggest thrill, my moment. And
Looks like we just lost them.
I was playing for them, playing
there
for
he
my
goes.
kid, and my brothers and my sisters who never had the opportunity to even go to college. So that's that. That's my biggest thrill. And what was the other? You asked me the second question, like with
Your
the
greatest
Browns.
moment as a Browns player, yeah.
As a Brown, my favorite thing is I got traded to the Browns right before the season started because I held out at camp because I didn't. It was I didn't. It's not that I didn't like Chuck Knox. I didn't respect Chuck Knox. So that's what I told him. Just please trade me. So he said the only team that wants you is Detroit, which is really where I want to go. So I said, okay, trade me there. Then that kind of put him on the hook. So I stayed out of camp forever. And I know that he traded me to Cleveland because he thought that'd be the worst team I could go to because Pittsburgh, Houston, and since we were in that, and they went from 0 to winning the division. So it's kind of like I'm going to stick it up his butt, and opportunity very often in life, and it happened. And I made All Pro and didn't miss any plays, didn't miss any games. Had 4,000-yard pay. I was the first guy to play on a team with a 2,000-yard rusher and a 4,000-yard passer. And so it's not that it's me. I just God put me in the right place, right time, and great players around me. I mean, fantastic. When you talk about the Pruitts and you had Rucker and Logan, those guys were some of the best. And Ozzie, we had some of the best offensive players you could think of in the game. And we should have won the whole thing. We should have kicked the field goal. Cockroft should have kicked the field goal. Paul McDonald was holding on the two that he missed. He had rubber gloves on, like scuba diving gloves. We said, take the damn gloves off and hold it. He makes the next field goal. But we should have kicked the field goal. Instead of trying to throw the ball in the end zone. And Paul McDonald should have taken his gloves off. But if buts for candy and nuts would be Christmas every day. But that was my most disappointing time in sport when I knew we were better than Oakland and we lost that game. And that really, to this day, my wife says, "What's wrong?" I'm eating cereal. Friggin' God dang it! Blocked the kick. He missed the kick. Dropped the ball. I can remember the ball went over my head and the guy intercepted it in the end zone, left side going in. I remember it's like a nightmare. It's reoccurring. Yeah. I never was close in anything. I was always on bad teams, but we had bad. I never went to a Super Bowl. Put it that way.
Yeah, well, here's the truth. If you can think about today's game, Joe, how it's such a pass-happy league, and the fact that you were a part of a Browns team to this day, that Brian Stipe still has the record for the most passing yards in a season to this day, says a lot of testament to not only you but the offensive line and
all the guys.
Ozzie.
I mean, we had Deacon, Tom DeLeon, Cody Rice, and Robert Jackson and Shepard. I mean, we had a good line, very good line, and they were a real good pass blocking line. And Buffalo was a great run blocking line. We had Donnie Green and Reggie McKinnon, just different type of players. And I could do both. I could pass block and run block. But you got to understand, I was addicted to football. Guys didn't like me on the team sometimes because I just loved it. It wasn't like a job to me. If you give me a hat and a T-shirt, tell me you're going to fly me to Pittsburgh to play, I would have paid you. I mean, I was different than other players. I really was, and I know I was because Cody. Right? I once said to Cody, I go to practice early, like in shower. He go, "Why are you showering? What are you showering before practice?" I said, "Because it's very important to me, Cody, and it's crowded after practice in the shower." But I used to get 7 o'clock just to get in their heads. Like I wanted those guys that I played with to think that this guy's a sicko. I came in camp early every year with the rookies because I wanted to discourage my competition, to make them think that friggin' guy's an idiot. But I wasn't. I loved it. I ran in between practices when it was double sessions. I go, "What are you doing?" And I told him, Sam asked me one time, I was running in between during camp, "What are you doing running between?" I said, "I'm discouraging my competition. I want them to think I'm friggin' nuts." and I'll outwork them. I'll do whatever and then I'll play them. Work is what your parents and police firemen do. You know, that's work. We play. So I want to play harder and have more fun, a lot of laughs, tease guys on the field. I live my dream because I was never serious on the field, very seldom. I tell guys, hey man, you're offside, back up. They'd back up. We'd run a ball right over my quarterback swing. First down. The guy I'd help the guy up. He'd go, thank you. They don't even know what they're doing. We used to mess with guys all the time. And people don't know all the stuff we've done. We had a lot of fun. I would
That's
play
what it's
for.
all about,
I'm telling
right?
you, I would play for free. I would have. Now I'm jealous, like every human. You go, damn, that guy makes $250 million, or the quarterback. I was a number one pick. My salary, $22,000, and me and my wife were dancing. Oh my God, they're paying us $22,000 to play football. We were married in college and didn't have to be. We got married because we wanted to be. She wasn't pregnant. We got married because we were crazy. We just she was a cheerleader in high school, and our family lives on football. We love it, and I don't love it so much like I used to because it's changed. They make too much money. You can't. Fans can't relate to these guys, and the former players can't either because human beings are jealous. And these guys make a ton of money. We didn't make that kind of money. We struck for them.
Yeah.
They never really fixed their pensions to what they should be, but you know that's why they call it Earth. Nothing's perfect.
That's a really good point. Some of these guys now are so almost untouchable and
Yeah.
unrelatable. And I think that's why there were so many, just the obvious devastating factor of the Nick Chubb injury. But another aspect of it is he seemed real. He wasn't one of those flashy guys. He wasn't one of those that I feel like you could just sit down and have a beer with the guy. Just seems like just a good human being.
I asked Dick Buckus, I said, what do you think of the current players compared to the older guys? He said, he said, I'll give you an example. When I tackled a guy, I went back to the huddle. I look over my shoulder, see if the son of a bitch is going to get up, and then I go on to the next play. And he said that now they make a tackle, they do a cartwheel and point to Jesus. It's a 2-yard gain. I mean, that's what the older players think of these guys. But it's not their fault because they've been raised differently than we were. We were raised in the 50s and 60s where your parents all worked, everybody worked, you had 2 jobs. When we played, I was my first 3 years I worked at the Erie County Sheriff's Department, and we go around to the schools and talk about drugs. So I became very popular in Buffalo because all the young kids knew me. But it's not like that anymore. These guys live in mansions.
It's different. Joe, this was great. Thanks for taking the time for us. We appreciate it.
I talk too much. I'm sorry, but
not at all. We love hearing from
this
you.
was awesome.
My wife said you sound like a chick.
Oh no, this was great.
So, but we have a sense of humor. If you want some funny stories, come live in our house. But you got to understand too. When I was playing, we raised 9 kids. Our 4, then we.
Oh no, Joe, you definitely.
Dustin, you got a little bit of a delay here. I'm going to kick you. Maybe go ahead and refresh, Dustin.
Okay. Talk to you later. Bye.
Hey, thanks, Joe. Appreciate it. Sorry about that, Dustin. I didn't mean to kick you off there. Just a little bit of a delay. I think we got it figured out. That was Hall of Famer Joe. Hey, he was so cool. To hear about his time at the Cleveland Browns. Look, he mentioned it. He didn't play for some of the best teams at that time, coming from Buffalo, then to Cleveland. And Buffalo at this point, they figured it out. And we just hope as Browns fans that maybe that the Cleveland Browns can be on that same path. So really cool to hear from Joe. It looks like Dustin's froze. I'm going to kick him while we get this figured out. So thanks to Joe for joining. A couple of sponsor reads here, guys. Whether you are wondering what you should do for dinner, the answer for you is Angelo's Pizza. Head on over to Lakewood to get your hands on the best pizza in all of Northeast Ohio. Angelo's does it right. They start out with a buttery crust and they do double layer toppings. It's great in the restaurant, at home, and even just as great the following day. So be sure to head on over to Angelo's today. And while we're at it, I do want to give a shout out to our friends over at Stadium Mustard. If you don't have Stadium Mustard in your kitchen this season, frankly, you're doing it wrong. The iconic brand, the iconic taste. It is beloved from ballparks to backyards and everywhere in between. Stadium Mustard is a smooth brown mustard rich in both taste and tradition. It is loved by millions. Head on over to stadiummustard.com to shop now. Dustin just straight up hopped off. He's not even in the studio anymore. So obviously, guys, I do want to acknowledge just how bad that game was against Monday Night Football against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Absolutely brutal. But as I mentioned earlier, I think that there is a little bit of a silver lining here. Last year, you look at week 2 against the New York Jets, it was just an unfathomable loss. And then they bounced back in week 3. You have to hope that your Cleveland Browns can do that. Looks like we got Dustin back. There he is.
I'm
Welcome back.
I don't know. I don't know what happened. I have no
Okay.
idea what happened.
Hey, it's a live show. These things happen. I was just mentioning, Dustin, that you have to have a short memory. We've got to bounce back. And I do want to kind of put the Pittsburgh game to rest a little bit and look ahead to the Tennessee Titans, because at the end of the day, Dustin, you have to have a short memory in the NFL.
Yes, you do.
And going up against a Tennessee team whose offense really isn't outstanding, but defensively, they do a lot of the same things that Pittsburgh can do. So I do want to turn it over to that matchup, Dustin. But before we do it, if you don't mind, telling our listeners about Cleveland whiskey.
Boys, if you haven't had Cleveland whiskey, give it a try.
And girls, ladies and gentlemen.
And girls, ladies and gentlemen, children. So we have Cleveland whiskey. It's peanut butter chocolate. If you haven't tried it, it's called Magic Rabbit. It is amazing. Also, we have the Underground, which is the bourbon whiskey with black cherry. We also have Penny, the Wheat Penny, excuse me. But if you don't have it and you're in Ohio, go to your local Ohio liquor store. Or if you're one of your local drinking places or bars, ask for it. If they don't have it, see how they can get it. But it's great stuff. We love having it. And I am a big fan of that peanut butter chocolate whiskey. Just saying. It's my fave.
Yeah. So. All right, Dustin, I want to talk about this matchup, but I also want to talk about what we can expect from this Browns offense going forward without Nick Chubb. First and foremost, before we get into that and what we can expect to see, because there are going to be differences. And I think as fans, we need to know and understand that. And I don't want to say we need to be patient with it because this is the NFL. They're professionals. They can figure it out. But at the end of the day, I think that we do need to just know that this is going to look different, without Nick Chubb. This is the top running back in the National Football League. Things are going to look a little bit differently. But my question to you is, they bring in Kareem Hunt. We know who he is. We kind of have a really good idea of who Jerome Ford is. But do you think that Pierre Strong is going to play any role in this? And what does that look like for you?
Yeah, so when the injury happened, I thought one of the things that I did think about immediately was the Browns weren't playing the way they used to, right? When we would get Nick Chubb for a majority of the carries, we would bring in Kareem Hunt, right, to kind of finish it off, fresh legs. So I think in some ways the Browns should use this to their advantage, right? They don't need Kareem Hunt to be Nick Chubb, right? They need Kareem Hunt to be Kareem Hunt. Strong needs to be strong. And I think and Ford needs to be Ford. I think the Browns, it starts with the run. I think by rotating these guys in, you can wear down football teams. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what came to my mind. We're kind of getting back to the way we played the last couple of years, where we rotated these guys in and came with some fresh legs. If we had a lead, we could bring somebody in and kind of, take it to them. And I kind of like that. So I think that is what I look forward to specifically, is getting back to a little bit of how we ran the offense with, multiple backs back there. And I think, someone like Strong is a little quick, more shifty, right? Maybe he can, get on the outside. To your point, Kareem has that catching ability out of the backfield. And then Ford is kind of have to take on that role that we want from Chubb, just put your head down and run and get those hard yards. So I think every one of these guys brings a unique advantage to the Browns. And I think you just have to use what they are best at and put that in the offense. And I think we're going to be okay. To be honest, like when I saw Kareem was re-signed and Ford, and I was like, we're going to be all right. Like we just need to get back to the way we used to do things and just rotate these guys in and out and keep them fresh. That was my kind of take on it.
Yeah. One thing that I find to be concerning offensively, even through 2 weeks so far with Nick Chubb, is offensively the Browns, and I think this ultimately falls on Kevin Stefanski, they really struggled to identify the marriage between the run and the pass. Now, when Kevin Stefanski came in as head coach, that was one thing we talked about so much during that season. I think it was in 2020 when he came in. is his offensive philosophy in marrying the pass and the run. Every single play is going to look the same until it doesn't. And now I do want to give credit to defenses around the league. They've really figured this out, because you have so many teams in the National Football League that fall from that Kubiak Shanahan style of offense. And a lot of teams have figured it out. But I think it also falls on the head coach, offensive coordinator, and everybody involved in this offensive philosophy to figure it out again. You know, if you can't consistently identify the difference between the pass and the run, defenses are going to sniff it out. And that's what you saw consistently.
Yeah.
Alex Highsmith they knew what the passes were. They knew when they were running the ball. And at that time, you did have Nick Chubb, so it didn't matter that it looked different, because you could just count on Nick to get 5 every single time. You don't have that anymore. You have to get back to the bread and butter. You have to get back to the basics. And I mentioned at the top, you can't go as much wide zone with these players now. You know, jury's still out on Jerome Ford and whether or not he can be more of a wide zone runner. But we know with Kareem Hunt that he can't be. That's just not who he is. We need to have a little bit more downhill RPO, especially with Kareem. Like, it just has to happen. A couple other things that I'd like to see offensively is, obviously you have to have more consistency from Deshaun, but schematically putting him in the gun more and then just running inside, I think is going to be of benefit to this Browns offense. And if they can just get into a little bit of a rhythm, they don't have to come out against the Tennessee Titans with every single answer. We as fans don't probably expect that, right? We just want it to look right. And it just hasn't. And you're paying this guy a lot of money. You're paying this offensive line a lot of money. Skill position players a ton of money. It has to get figured out. And I think it all starts from the top with Kevin Stefanski. And you know, I've said this time and time again. The scheme works in a lot of ways. Guys just get open, but it comes down to player execution every single time. And the one play, it should have been a bubble, and Deshaun just didn't throw it. I mean, you're leaving points out there. You're leaving points on the field, and he needs to be able to process it faster. For somebody that's getting paid that much money, has to be processed faster, has to be more accurate, and it starts and ends with him.
Well, Allie, let's even pull back a little bit here. In 2 football games, the Cleveland Browns defense has given up 15 points. 15 points in 2 games. If the Cleveland Browns just clean up their offense and just play fundamental football, and the Browns score 21 points, you're going to beat a lot of football teams the way this defense is playing. I'm sorry. This defense is well coached. You saw Schwartz was dialed in on that game Monday Night Football. You would have thought he was the head coach the way that he was maneuvering the football game out there. And if they just go out and play clean football, Allie, and to your point, just get guys open, don't give pick sixes, don't have turnovers, you'll beat a lot of teams in this league. The defense is playing at a high level. They've given up 15 points over 2 games, and they are playing at an elite level.
The Cleveland Browns did not allow the Steelers inside their own 30-yard line at all during that game, but they still lost. I mean, that is historical. That is historical. They did not let the Steelers inside their own 30-yard line, and they still somehow lost this game.
Yeah, that's my point. The defense will go out and will shoulder and help this football team. But to Allie, like you said, don't get in the way of yourself, right? Do not get in the way of yourself. Go out, do what you can do, get guys open. Yes, the offensive. I think it was interesting that Joe said sometimes a lot of that's on the quarterback, not knowing where his receiver is, right, and making sure that guy is at the point where you can throw the ball to him. Yeah, I mean, these guys just got to execute their plays. If they go out and just execute, you should be able to beat a lot of football teams. But if the defense keeps playing like this, they're going to be a tough out against any team, right? They're just not going to allow you to run. They're going to be disciplined on the pass. JOK was great on Monday Night Football. I mean, he had some great plays. Anthony Walker.
Grant Delpit is playing the best I've ever seen him play.
Right. Anthony Walker made a hellacious play, a key play in this football game on 4th down to give the Browns a chance. And it went all to waste because the offense didn't do what they were supposed to do. So Deshaun and the offense needs to get it together. They really need to come in sync here and really start playing as a cohesive unit, because guess what? The defense is not always going to be able to bail you out. They're going to have some times where they're going to give up a play or two. But guess what? The way they're playing right now, the Browns don't have to score 40 points. They don't have to score 35 points. They can score 3 touchdowns, and you're in the game. Or not, if not winning it the way the Browns have. What I see, the eye test tells me the Browns' defense is just fine.
Yeah, I agree with that entirely. We didn't, because of it being Monday Night Football, we didn't give out any game balls because we didn't do a post-game show. So just to bring a little bit more of a positive light to this game, because there wasn't much, let's hand out some game balls. Offensively, who are you giving it to?
Well, I'm going to give a co-award for the offense.
Okay.
And the first part of it is the fact that he was in for very few plays and had almost 70 yards. I'm going to give that to Nick Chubb, because when Nick Chubb was in the game, that was amazing, and I think he deserves that because, I mean, he goes out and he's already got almost 70 yards in the game. And the other one I give to Ford, because under that adversity to come in and get that many yards in the game and be able to play with a level head and not let the emotions of the situation get the best of you and still go out and do your job, I'm going to give it as a co-award Chubb and Ford in this game, because I think those two guys are the reason. And I mean, maybe Amari Cooper, but maybe that's who you'll pick. But I mean, other than that, I'm going to give it to Chubb and Ford.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's the obvious answer here is those two guys just, they do it right. And you just like what you see out of them consistently. But for the sake of podcasting, I will go in a separate direction here. I'll go with Amari. Look, he came into this game beat up. We weren't sure if he was going to go. Then he went 7 for 90. I mean, his longest on the day was 23 yards. He was averaging at 12.9, almost 13 yards. He's just reliable. He's just consistent. And he's another one of those guys that's relatable that we talked about with Joe, that he's not untouchable. He seems like a good human being, a good leader. And he just shows that week in and week out. Defensively, who you got? Because you can go several ways here.
Yeah, defensively, I'm going to go JOK in this, sure, because there was a couple of plays that I was just like, wow, that was JOK, right? Seems like he was always in the backfield. He was very disruptive. He came on one of those. He came in on a blitz, package, disguised blitz, where he came in and he came unabated to the quarterback. So I like JOK in this game. What I like about JOK as a player, he's consistently gotten better since he's been with the Browns and consistently getting better every year. I don't think we've seen the ceiling on JOK. And I think I'm excited to see him even progress even more under Schwartz this year. I'm excited to see what JOK is going to bring in the future.
Yeah. I agree. He was all over the place. I think Taki was all over the place.
Oh, Taki had a great play.
Yeah, you could give some shout outs here to the defensive line, but I'm going to go with Grant Delpit, who I think is playing the best football of his career. He had 6 total tackles in the day, 4 solo. He's just been playing, consistently, 1 pass defense in this game against the Steelers. He is playing like a top tier safety in the league right now, and I think we knew he could get there. It's just nice to see him do it, and I think almost all the credit goes to Grant for putting in the work and being the player that he is, but also giving credit too to Jim Schwartz and being able to get the most out of this player that had such a high ceiling coming out of the draft, who fell to the second round, and we got great value for him, and then he battled some injuries. So it's nice to see him really start to figure things out, and what's going to be a really big year for him, just for the future of him on this team. I really like what we've seen from Grant so far. Dustin, why don't you tell our listeners about Lorello?
So, guys, if you haven't been out to Geneva and checked out the winery, go out there and check out Lorello Vineyards. They have the Here We Go Brownies wine. We were so excited to collaborate with this, guys, and we have some exciting news. I think we've shared this as well. We are going to be featured with the Lorellos at the Taste of the Browns in a couple weeks, the Monday after the Baltimore Ravens and Browns games. That'll be really exciting to be there with Joe Thomas and Joel Petonio, and being a part of a great cause, the Greater Cleveland Food Bank, and everything they do for the city of Cleveland. So excited for that. But they just don't have red. They got whites. They got ice wine. They got great variety. They got great food out there, by the way, Allie. So great date night if you want to go out there, or girls' night. Go out there, check it out in the evenings or on the weekend. Great place to go check out.
Also, want to give a shout out to our friends over at the Cleveland Furniture Company. Watch this fun little video.
I don't know, like our 5th location and give each other a high five or something. I don't know. And now Brunswick. And now Brunswick, which we're here right now. You're like, oh, that's so funny.
Talking about family-owned and operated businesses, that's Cleveland Furniture Company. I don't know about you guys, but I know I like sitting on my own couch when I'm watching my Cleveland Browns play. So if you need a new couch, recliner, bed, whatever you need, head on over to one of their locations. Their guys, they do it right. Go check them out. They can get you hooked up. Dustin, let's put the Pittsburgh game to bed. Let's look ahead to the Tennessee Titans and what they've got going on. Now, offensively, as I mentioned, obviously they have Derrick Henry. That's something you need to know. So far in the season, he has got 40 attempts for 143 and a touchdown. Right now he's averaging just under 4 yards a carry. So, he's still kind of getting amped up here, getting revved up. Behind him is Tyjae Spears. He's 11 for 76. He's averaging almost 7 yards a carry. Now with that, his longest on the season is 17 yards. He's explosive. He's dynamic. The quarterback, he's only thrown the ball so far 58 times this season. So he's 36 to 58, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. So, they turn the ball over. Pass catchers, they've got Traylon Burks, they've got DeAndre Hopkins, they've got Nick Westbrook, Derrick Henry can catch the ball. They've got some dudes, but offensively, they don't scare you like just completely. I think there's a lot that you can do, and with a Browns defense that's playing lights out, feel pretty good about that matchup. Now, their defense is pretty good. They can do a lot of the same things that Pittsburgh did. Now, I think if you attribute to the environment in Pittsburgh that was allowing them to just all-out blitz no matter what and create complete disruption and absolute chaos for Deshaun Watson. But I would expect to see their defensive line, their front seven, really try to pressure Deshaun Watson, because what we know about Deshaun is when he gets pressured, he goes into hero mode and he'll turn the ball over. We know that so far in 8 games, that's what he'll do. So I think you can expect to see a lot of similar concepts from Tennessee defensively to try to get this Browns offense to turn the ball over. Dustin, your thoughts?
Yeah, here's the thing. A year ago, Derrick Henry coming to town against the Browns defense would scare the hell out of me, right?
Yep.
But now that we went out and made an emphasis on stopping the run, we're going to probably make them try to stop us with the run, or they're going to probably try to run in us. And when they can't do that or be successful with that, they're going to pass the ball. To your point, they create turnovers, and they create those things like Delpit and Ward and those guys out there that can make those plays, right? That's what we're going to lean on. Okay, well, they got to pass the ball. Let's do that. The Browns, I look forward to the defense really making them have a long day passing the ball with us being out there and doing the way we do. Even when the Pittsburgh Steelers made plays, Allie, in that game, Ward and those guys were right on top of the ball. It was a bang, bang play. So I never saw any blown coverages in the game, really. There was one
that long one in Pickens. Yeah.
Yeah. But other than that, it was pretty well. They pretty much covered everything. So I look for the Browns to do the same thing, be well coached in this game. I think Schwartz will have his guys fired up for this game. I think you'll also have a lot of players out in this game that'll be pissed off and be ready to play and prove that they are a better football team than they showed in Pittsburgh. I would not want to play the Cleveland Browns coming off a game where you just lost Nick Chubb. I wouldn't want to play the Browns. I don't care what team you are or who you're playing or who are against. And especially if the Browns have that game at home, I wouldn't want to be that team. So I think the Browns are going to come out with a little edge to them, if that makes sense, a little bit more emotion in this game than our opponent. And I think the Browns are going to be a little edgy in this game. Now, we all know that you have to play and not let your emotions get the best of you, right? Because then you're making mistakes, your penalties and stuff like that. But I think the Browns can play at a very high level, keep these emotions in check. But I'm looking for a game where the defense really comes out with their hair on fire, plays to the crowd, plays inspired. And I think the Browns don't have to be flashy, to your point, Allie. They just have to get back to the fundamentals. And I think the Browns can win this game by 7-10 points, not make it a crazy game.
Yeah, no, I agree. And ultimately what I'm looking for the most is the defense to continue what they've done, but also the offense to just look sharp, to look right, for Deshaun to look more comfortable in the pocket, for the offensive line to allow him some more protection. You want to see a better game out of your tight ends, especially Harrison Bryant. I mean, look, if that's how that's going to go, you get Njoku involved earlier and way more often. But ultimately, outside of it looking right, I really don't want to. I want to see a clean game, especially from Deshaun. I don't want to see him put the ball on the ground. I don't want to see the interceptions. I need a clean game, especially in the turnover differential. I think that is key. And then discipline too. We talked about the personal fouls against Deshaun, which is something that I don't know that I've ever seen before. A quarterback getting not one, but two, face mask calls against him. We need to see a clean game from a penalty standpoint and from a turnover standpoint.
So let me ask you this, Alec. Do you think Stefanski should simplify the offense a little more?
I don't think it's that. No, I really don't think it's that. I think so much of it comes down to player execution. And we've seen it with Baker. We've seen it with Jacoby even. And now we're seeing it with Deshaun. And I know some people are going to get up in arms when I say this, but some of Deshaun on the run, when he's under pressure, his poor decision-making is reminiscent of Baker Mayfield days. It's the hero ball, trying to throw into triple coverage when you've got a check down right there. Right. Just to try to make the big play, and whether it's proving to themselves or to the fan base, like, hey, I can do this. I'm still that guy. We don't need that. We don't need that. We need, and sure, maybe simplicity does help, and creating and implementing plays and calls in specific times that are comfort throws and comfort plays that you can get 5-10 yards. But to do that more than to cut back the playbook anyways, I think you can't do that. I mean, these are professionals. Figure it out. I refuse to believe that this offense is so complex that a $230 million quarterback can't figure it out. So sorry, I've got a cat here. So no, I think awesome. That we've got the cat here. He's telling me, he's actually feeding me all the information that I need to know for this matchup. But to answer your question, maybe a little to simplify it, just to give him some comfort throws and let him get back to basics. But ultimately, down the stretch of this season, no, we got to figure it out.
Well, yeah, and now you probably remember this play from Monday Night Football. There was a play where, like you said, Deshaun rolled out, and he threw the ball kind of towards the ground about 15, 20 yards upfield. And I'm like, there was nobody in front of him. He could have just ran like 12 yards.
Yeah. We got bailed out with an Amari Cooper. I think it was a defensive holding call. We got bailed out. But he had 2-3 yards that he could have easily got the first down. So it's that decision making. We don't have to play hero ball. And especially against a team in Tennessee that I don't think is all that good. And that's even more frustrating against a Pittsburgh team that I just find to be not the best either. Real quick, oops, give me 1 second here. I almost just clicked out of this podcast. That wouldn't have been very good. Want to talk to you about our friends over at HotWorks. Guys, head on over. They do 24-hour infrared saunas. You can do hot core, hot yoga, hot Pilates, hot cycle. That kicks my ass every single time. Absolutely love going. And also, if you're not into the sauna workouts, they also have freestanding weights, dumbbells, things like that. So they have equipment there as well. So if that's more your game, they've got it too. And Dustin, I'm pretty sure we've got some memberships to give away. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, as I say, I know Jason is watching this show, so I'm going to sign up Jason. He doesn't know that. I'm just going to sign him up. He's got a free membership. He doesn't know it yet, but I know he lives close, so we're going to give Jason a free membership, and he can bring a friend. No cost to you, Jason. I'll get you the details. I think you're closer to the Rocky River location. I could be wrong. But I know Jason was wanting to go try that out. So I'm going to have Jason. But if you have a friend, a girlfriend, or a wife that may want to come try this, or I do it myself.
Or a boyfriend or a husband.
Right. Or a boyfriend or husband. I do it myself. And I got to tell you, I can't do it now because of my injury, but that's a whole other. Jason just said, I'm fantastic. I'm in. So there you go. So yeah, it's a great thing. It's a great workout. It's the infrared sauna, so it'll be fun. But it's fun. And Alec kicks your butt. But because of my stupid injury, at Cleveland Browns training camp. I can't really go do anything right now until I get that MRI to see if I can. I did go to PT, by the way, Allie. That was
Cool.
that hurt. That hurt the next day.
Yeah,
But
yeah, I bet that it did.
yeah, PT's not fun.
Sorry, I'm literally throwing this cat over here. So George, he just said he's going to go check it out. What do you recommend? I recommend it all. Their hot cycle and hot blast is great because it's only a 15-minute workout. Really enjoyed that. But if you need something, maybe a little bit longer, hot yoga, hot Pilates, hot core, hot glutes, those are all about 45-minute workouts. And the beauty of it is you can do multiple workouts in one day. So a lot of times I'll do like a hot Pilates session, then I'll go hop on the bike. So really, really cool. It's all, you can reserve the booth on your phone. So highly, highly, highly recommend. Dustin, let's get into our picks. We are in week 3 now, and we tied last week. So let's get into it. Tomorrow night, Giants at 49ers.
We'll make our picks by Stadium Mustard picks. Call them the Stadium Mustard picks. Giants.
We're good there. We're good there.
Giants and who? Sorry.
Giants at 49ers.
Niners. Definitely the Niners.
Niners. Yep, me too. Falcons at Lions.
Falcons 2-0. Falcons are 2-0. What's the Lions' record? Did they win?
1-1. Devastating loss last week.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm gonna give the edge to the Lions in this. I'm gonna give the edge to the Lions in this one.
I'm with you. I'm with you on that front. I think that they bounced back pretty well, and I think the Falcons are due for a loss here. Chargers at Vikings.
This will be interesting because I do think the Vikings are due for a win. Now,
so are the Chargers.
Yeah, well, but these are
Minnesota. 2 winless teams.
Yeah. So here's my question. I don't know if you saw the trade. Cam Akers is now a Minnesota Viking as of this afternoon. So the Rams traded Cam Akers over to. So I don't know how much play he'll get this Sunday, but I'm going to give the edge to the Vikings in this one.
Okay. Gosh, I don't know. I mean, these are 2 teams that I think are really good roster-wise.
And desperate for a win.
Desperate for a win. But I think I agree with you because Chargers coming over from the West Coast. I'm going to go with the Vikings as well, but I think it's a close game. Saints at Packers.
Saints at Packers. I'm going to go Packers here. Home crowd. I'm going to go with the Packers here.
Okay, I'm going to go Saints. I'm going to go Saints on this one. Texans at Jags.
Jags,
yeah. Agreed. Except CJ looks pretty good. Broncos at Dolphins.
Dolphins.
Man, Broncos just can't figure it out. Titans at Browns.
Browns, obviously. Yeah.
Always the Browns. Bills at Commanders.
Oh boy. Commanders are pretty good right now. Bills are a better team though.
Yep.
Overall, I'm gonna go with the Bills.
Yeah, I'm going Bills here. Colts at Ravens.
I gotta go Ravens. They're at home. Just because.
Yep. Yeah, Anthony Richardson, he's questionable. Patriots at Jets.
This is an interesting one. I'm going to go. Jets had a horrible game at Dallas, but I think the Patriots. I think the Jets are. I mean, the Jets have a good defense. They have some offensive players, but I mean, I don't have any faith in Wilson. I'm going to go Patriots with Bill Belichick on the road.
I actually agree with that. I was kind of a toss-up when I was previewing these matchups. And at first, when I first look at it, I'm like, oh, Jets. Then I thought about it. I'm like, no, I agree. I just don't have any faith in Zach Wilson. I think that's kind of the core of my problem with the Jets right now. Panthers at Seahawks.
Seahawks. That's a long coast to coast. I think the Seahawks win at home.
Yep, agreed. Bears at Chiefs.
Chiefs.
Man, some weird stuff going on with the Bears right now.
And I got to tell you, people were hyping up the Bears, and I was not on that hype train. And now the Bears are showing me exactly who I thought they were. So
yeah, Cowboys at Cardinals.
Cardinals. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Cowboys.
Yeah. Steelers at Raiders.
You know what?
This is interesting.
I'm gonna take the Raiders because I don't think, to your point, Allie, the Steelers are all that good. Raiders are at home in their dome, and they'll have a little something cooking there. I'm gonna go.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go Raiders here.
I'm gonna go Raiders here as well. Eagles at Bucks.
Well, I don't want to see Baker Mayfield go 3-0 because that'll give you even louder from the Browns people. Like, oh yeah, he's $8 million and he's $250 million. I'm gonna go. Baker Mayfield comes down to earth, comes back down to earth, and Philly comes in with that defense and wrecks some havoc on Baker, and they win. Eagles.
I agree. I'm taking the Eagles, but I think that's gonna be a fun game to watch. I do.
Yeah,
and then last but not least,
it will be entertaining.
Rams at Bengals.
Yeah, Bengals. I mean, well, here's the thing: we don't know if our boy Burrow is going to play, right? Is that correct?
Thank you. Yes, we do not know. I mean, more likely than not, I would imagine he will, but we don't know that.
I'm gonna go Cincinnati just because they're at home. And by the way, they're desperate for a win. They're also desperate for a win.
This is a team that's desperate for a win. So I'm going Bengals here as well. So the only one that we have is Saints Packers. It's the only difference.
So really, all I have to do is watch the Packer team. Great, perfect.
Yeah, that's it. Before we wrap up, everybody, we want to tell you a little bit about our friends over at Seaside Events and what they've got going on.
Hey, Browns fans, pack your bags for the ultimate Dog Pound at Sea party on the amazing Independence of the Seas in March of 2024 as we embark on a 5-day all-inclusive Caribbean cruise. Spend time with your favorite Browns alumni like Josh Cribbs, Eric Metcalf, Webster Slaughter, and many more. Presented by Seaside Events. Cabins are selling fast, so book yours now. Visit BrownsFanCruise.com or call 216-284-6472 today.
Dustin, with that, any closing thoughts as we wrap up on a beautiful Wednesday evening?
Well, Allie, I got to tell you, I'm excited about the islands. I'm excited for a cruise.
Yeah.
If you are a Browns fan, you want to join us and 20-plus alumni, come on down to the brownscruise.com and join us. But Allie, more importantly, I hope everybody has a great week. We appreciate all the folks that tune in every Wednesday and Sundays to join us. We're excited to bring more content, and we're excited that we can bring you now on YouTube, also on Twitter and Facebook Live every week. So join us. We're super excited about that. But more importantly, let's get a win come this Sunday for our Browns and get back on track and get to 2-1.
Yep, we'll feel much better having talked to you Sunday after the Browns come away with a win. Certainly make me feel a lot better.
That.
All right, guys, with that, stay safe, stay healthy, and as always, Browns fans, go Browns.
Go Browns.